Welcome to all of you and welcome to those on Zoom as well. We're having this live streamed around the world potentially today. It's great to see so many of you here, and I think it highlights the interest and stressing the importance of civil society and the role that we play in supporting the delivery of the Ramsar Convention for the conservation and the wise use of wetlands. So today we're going to be exploring the different mechanisms that civil society, when we talk about civil society, really we're talking about non-governmental organizations and also citizen groups and associations, the roles they play in helping to inform the priorities for conservation, act and respond to some of the challenges that we see in wetland conservation. And then we're going to look at some of the different mechanisms that we're employing across the conservation community to build the capacity of civil society so they can respond to those challenges, from things like funding, training, and also celebrating excellence, because we're going to finish today with the award ceremony for the Wetland Link International Star Awards, celebrating excellence in wetland education and engagement. Okay, so we've got a great list of speakers today, and I'd like to first, I'm terrified about kicking over Zoom links. So we're going to start with Matt Simpson from the Society of Wetland Scientists and Kim-Diana Connolly, who is one of the co-chairs of the World Wetland Network. And they are going to be talking about a citizen science survey called the World Wetlands Survey, which looks at some of the priorities for wetland conservation, the status of sites across the world, and some of the challenges they face. So over to you, Kim-Diana.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all. Thanks for allowing us to speak. So yeah, I'm Matt Simpson from the Society of Wetland Scientists. And yeah, we're going to go through the World Wetlands Survey and what it means and what recommendations have come out of doing it. And I'm doing it with Kim-Diana. Okay, next one, please. So this is the 2024 version of the World's Wetlands Survey, and I hope you've got a copy of it. If you haven't, they're at the back, so please get one. And we've run this 3 times now. So we did one in 2017, one in 2020, and one in 2024. And the idea is that we gather data on the state of the world's wetlands ahead of each COP to help kind of inform the contracting parties and others how things are going. And first of all, I'd like to kind of acknowledge a whole load of people. I'm not going to read them all out because hopefully you've got a copy, but this report was put together by the team at WWT and written by Kim-Diana, Agatha and Connor. And we had a science team that helped collect the data and analyze it. And I should say that it's kind of an online survey, so it was open to lots of people, and we also had it in Excel form for people that couldn't access the online version. And then we have a whole load of collaborating partners at the bottom there, and thank you to all of them for contributing to this. So this one, I think over 400 people contributed to it, and it's a range of people. It goes out to through our networks, through our partners' networks, to a whole load of different people. And mainly it's people that really know about sites. So what we ask people to do is, in a wetland site they're familiar with, to give us an update on the status of that wetland. So, and we record how many years, someone knows that wetland. And some people know the wetlands, for 30, 40 years. Others, maybe it's like 5 years. But we get a nice picture of what's been happening at that wetland. And what I think is really brilliant from a citizen science project like this information, this data has gone into the Global Wetland Outlook. There's no other global data set on the condition of wetlands. There's none. I mean, individual countries, some countries collect that. So we've heard a lot from the Global Wetland Outlook about wetland loss, but the degradation part is really hard to understand and what condition those wetlands are in. And this data that all these kind people spent their time filling in gives us that information about degradation. And we are getting more and more sort of reassured in a way that the results from the 3 surveys are broadly similar, which suggests it's valid and it's robust data. Often people kind of be a little sniffy about or criticize citizen science information. But I think this has really shown that this is kind of robust information, because we've had very different respondents filling it in. Sometimes it's the same person with the same wetland, but over the 3 times we've done it, we've had very different people. So, you know, just a big shout out to everyone that filled it in, because this data is making a difference in terms of understanding condition of wetlands. Okay, so I'll quickly talk about the results. This is kind of the good and the bad news. So the good news is 37% of the world's wetlands were reported by the respondents to be in good condition. So there's kind of some hope there. And 40%, as you could see, were in fair condition. But nearly 1/5 of the world's wetlands are in poor condition. And that, you know, should be a concern to all of us. And we also ask the participants, over the time they've known the wetland, how they think it's changed. And I mean, this really is quite sobering. So 48% of respondents on the wetlands that they reported on said that there'd been some deterioration in the condition of that wetland. And only 29% showed that there was some recovery, probably through restoration efforts. So most people are reporting that their wetlands in a deteriorating condition. But this is over the whole time that they've known that wetland. But we also asked them what had happened since the last COP. And unfortunately, that kind of same pattern is continuing. You can see 40% of the wetlands just since the last COP are deteriorating. So yeah, we obviously all need to do a little bit more work to make sure that that doesn't maintain itself. Okay, next one. So we also ask people what are the different drivers of change that they're seeing within their wetlands, and particularly in terms of their wetland health. And we ask them whether that's positive change or negative change. So I'm going to start with the positive side. So, you know, the things that always stand out is if you have local community awareness, then there's normally positive outcomes for that wetland in terms of wetland health. If you have conservation management measures, if you recognize culture, and tourism often can be real positive drivers for that, the health of that wetland. And then, unfortunately, there's a whole range of negative drivers. And the big ones are things such as urban and industrial pollution, drought, agricultural runoff, urban development, agricultural intensity. And we've heard with the Global Wetland Outlook, you know, those drivers are well known, but they're still happening and they're still increasing. And as well as the scientific research that's showing that, the people on the ground reporting on the wetlands, they're seeing that as well. So, yeah. And then this is a really depressing bit. We also ask people whether their site is a Ramsar site or a non-Ramsar site. And unfortunately, the Ramsar site is the darker color, the greeny color, and the non-Ramsar site is the blue color. And you can see that if we look at major deterioration, the situation is worse in Ramsar sites than reported in non-Ramsar sites. So even though they have the designation of a Ramsar site of international importance, they are being degraded. And often that is because the Ramsar sites are very large sites, so the pressures on them are greater. And it's something we want to do with the data, is to drill in that into it more and look at things such as size of the wetland and type of wetland to see what's actually happening there. But yeah, the picture's not great, the Ramsar sites. And sorry, next slide. And the same pattern occurs in terms of how long they've known it. It's the same pattern of deterioration in Ramsar sites, unfortunately, in area change and also health. I think, is there one more? Is that me? Oh, yeah. So this is the area change one. And there has been a decrease in area since respondents have known it, with Ramsar sites particularly. no change, more in the non-Ramsar sites. But so, you know, just to get this message across, within the Ramsar sites that people reported on, there was deterioration, you know, to a large extent, and there also was a decrease in size. So we're talking about 40% of the Ramsar sites that people reported on had these issues, which is another kind of sobering result. So I think that is my last slide. So I'll pass over to Kim Diana, but she will say, I'm sure as well, the power of this thing, and we will run it again. And I urge all of you, we urge all of you to distribute it and use it, because this data is really important. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here today. I want to say that I'm sad, and I don't know if she's watching, I'm sad that my co-chair, Agatha Chisa, is not able to be here today. She's had something that's taken her away from this, and I know she would have rather been with you, but so I'm speaking on behalf of both of us. So we've already heard, this is something that's born from global collaboration from all sorts of people, the scientists analyzing it, the hundreds of people who gave their time to give us this data. Next slide, please. So World Wetland Network, if you don't know about us, or if you just know a little about us, is a network that is meant to raise the awareness of how local people support wetland conservation. So, and we support their active involvement and build capacity for individuals, NGOs, other civil society organizations to deliver effective wetland conservation. And that is our goal. And if you know of organizations who would like to be part of that, have them come see us. They can come see me, and we can talk more about how we can be helpful, and they can join us because we are all working together. Next slide, please. So I think what I want to say is we heard a little about how this data is unique because it's what is hearing from on the ground, what's really happening. But it also can be used by you or your friends or people who are in your community to influence their local as well as this national and international. Local decisions can be influenced by this. It also shows what's working on the ground. It's working on the ground, and we hear from different cultural traditions. We hear from people who are doing different kinds of community engagement. And so that's really important. It's how you can use this to help with that in your area and to track and share changes in your wetlands and wetlands around you in your country or in your region. And we can use it to identify a larger set of drivers of deterioration, but this really can be used on a local level as well. And I think the story that we can see from all the gorgeous pictures in the back of this book that tell us a sad story. And so we highlight the urgent need for what we're doing to protect and restore and pay attention to our wetlands. Next slide, please. So I'm going to go over, if you turn to page 6, the summary and recommendations, you can follow along. I'm going to make a very quick summary of this. So if you want to read a little bit more about this, we've come up with six summary recommendations based on the data that maybe some of you in this room or some people you know shared with us. Cultural traditions often do protect wetlands, and humans are powerful people when it comes to the wetlands that they know about and care about. And so we recommend, as part of this, boosting impact by improving access to locally relevant wetland information through SEPA and through continuing this survey. Next one, please. As you heard, Matt told the story of he and the other scientists who worked together to summarize the input that we got. Nearly half of the world's wetlands are in decline with little sign of recovery. Half of the world's wetlands. So we recommend prioritizing wetland restoration in all of the additional work that people are doing and letting people know when they're talking about climate, when they're talking about biodiversity, when they're talking about sustainability on their agendas, include wetlands in those discussions. Next slide, please. Ramsar sites, Ramsar sites aren't doing as well as one would think. We have this great thing, they're Ramsar site. So we know it helps, but it's not enough. It's not enough to local engagement. So we are going to be recommending through the issuance of this report, strengthening post-designation management. making sure that when you've got a Ramsar site, you have participatory governance, meaningful involvement, investment, and monitoring of those sites. Because it turns out the people who are watching them closely are reporting that it's not helping as much as it really has the power to. Next slide, please. So we've got some specific area things, and read more about it. This is just a few highlights, but read more about it. Europe does show wetland improvement due to policy management and activism. But here's the truth of this is Europe has done a lot of development. So we have much more historic loss in Europe. So we must acknowledge that even though there's great things happening throughout Europe, there's still as much of a net loss. So we recommend scaling up restoration and sharing successful models across the region at events like this and other events. Number 5. And, you know, in Latin America and the Caribbean, wetlands appear to be improving and expanding, but for some reason it's not improving overall wetland health. The region is showing the highest level of deterioration. So we're recommending building on success, again, by scaling up restoration efforts, setting clear targets, and sharing lessons with other regions. Again, the longer version of this that I wrote, not in lawyer speak. I'm a lawyer. I didn't write in lawyer speak, but it is in here. So do that. And then number 6, the power of partnership. The thing that this report does, and that so many of us do in this room, or other people who are not able to be in this room but are attending, and for those of you who are online, we love you. With those of you who are on Zoom, is that civil society and academia can really help impact wetland policy and take meaningful action. And so therefore, we're urging governments to strengthen their partnerships with these NGOs, with indigenous peoples, with local communities, and with academic experts to support inclusive local knowledge and leadership, because that's going to make the best results and move progress closer to restoring the global gap. So I'm going to give you some quick takeaways. This research matters. So thanks to everyone who is a part of it. And please share this report. You can be found online. So you don't have to take a whole bunch of them with you, though you can take a few if you want, but you can find them online. Please tell people about this work. And remember this. And before COP16, look for the call. Because we're going to be asking for people to give us data, and share it with people who can bring even more diverse input and citizen participation for the next World Wetlands Survey. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, because we're so on time, there is an opportunity to ask a few questions, I think. So if anyone's got any questions about the World Wetland Network survey, or about the Welly Star Awards, or about some of the work in Madagascar, you're very, very welcome now. And then we will have our celebration event. Yeah, I'm going to come and run around with a microphone as well, so we can hear everyone.
Thank you very much, more special on the survey. Just a simple thing. I saw you went deeper in Europe and America. I didn't see Asia and Africa. Are we okay in Africa?
I'm going to get my steps in. Oh yeah, can you do that?
Yeah, I can do it here. Unfortunately, no. The Africa and kind of Latin America showed the kind of greatest deterioration, although the size of the wetlands was kind of maintained, but in terms of deterioration, they were the largest out of the regions. But it should be noted, and I think it was noted in the discussions on the Global Wetland Outlook, and Kim Diana mentioned it, Europe and other continents have lost most of their wetlands. So in Africa and Latin America and the Caribbean, there are still substantial areas of wetlands. So it's not unsurprising that they're perhaps deteriorating more than in other continents, but some of those other continents like Europe have already got rid of most of their wetlands. So, you know, you have to make sure you have a kind of a balanced view of the picture. But I think, you know, the main results coming out of the survey is that we've lost a lot of wetlands. The wetlands that we have left are deteriorating in large numbers, and yeah, we have to work to do something about that. And I didn't mention it during the presentation, so thank you for your question. But that picture has been backed up by the national reports from contracting parties as well. So it's a very similar picture to what the civil science is suggesting.
Thank
And
you,
you
Matt.
can find more you can find more with some data in the actual report.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Kim Diana. Any other questions? I shouldn't have done this, should I? I'm going to open up the floor. I'm sorry, I'm just going to come to this gentleman, then I'm going to...
Thank you very much for the study and for the good presentation. Congratulations for the presenter. My question is about this big deterioration observed in Africa. How can you explain this big deterioration in Africa, while in Africa we still have this pristine wetland, especially peatland? And when you go in Europe, especially in Germany and the others, where they have big industrial pollution and where peatland are really big deterioration. So how can you explain this big deterioration observed in Africa in comparison to the Europe, and what would be advised to the Africa? Thank you.
I'm going to bring back this microphone because I don't know if the people online can hear you.
Yeah, it's as I sort of mentioned earlier. I think it's because, well, I can speak from the UK and Europe particularly. We have drained and got rid of a lot of our wetlands. And so the remaining wetlands we're trying to protect. And so the condition of those is not so bad. But when we're in a continent like Africa, you still have extensive wetlands. They haven't been lost, but they are under a lot of pressure from agriculture, from industry, from urbanization. And I think that explains why we're getting that type of data. So you still have your wetlands, but there are big pressures on them. In Europe, perhaps the wetlands that are remained are more protected and more, managed to make sure that their health is better. So I think it's, in terms of what needs to be done, I think it's having good agricultural policy, good urban development policy, good industrial policies that really include wetlands within that, which means that those pressures on the wetlands are removed, and the wetlands, hopefully, in the next survey and subsequent surveys, show an increasing health and not deterioration. Thank you.
So it's a combination of local action in your particular wetland and working with the governmental entities.
You've got one over there and one down here, and then I'm afraid we're going to have to close. That was a bad idea to open the questions, but they're all brilliant questions. So
thank you for the great presentations and side events. My question is for the lady from Madagascar. It's really interesting to see what you're doing over there. And as most people here in the room have experienced, probably, there's many groups all around the world, citizen groups, local communities working and leading wetland conservation. But not always do we find that government support that work. So I'm just curious, like why Madagascar has chosen that pathway. If you can comment a bit on that.
like to do it in French or English? You happy in English?
I will answer in French, and maybe you will translate in. Yes. OK. On a dit que Madagascar a subi beaucoup de dégradation en matière de zones humides. Le problème, c'est que la majeure partie de la population à Madagascar vit à travers de l'agriculture, surtout la culture de riz. Donc, les zones humides, les zones marécageuses sont surtout des zones propices pour les zones humides, pour la culture du riz. Donc, étant donné que notre pays est encore dans ce stade en voie de développement, donc notre besoin, c'est surtout d'assurer la survie de la population en matière de l'agriculture, la riziculture et tout. Donc, nous sommes actuellement en train de convaincre le plus haut niveau à Madagascar, les décideurs à Madagascar, de bien considérer les zones humides parmi les écosystèmes les plus potentiels. Donc, c'est pour ça que nous sommes ici. On essaie de convaincre nos dirigeants de bien considérer les zones humides comme des zones ou bien des sites prioritaires pour la conservation à Madagascar. Donc, à travers les lois et les réglementations que les dirigeants acceptent à Madagascar, on essaie de faire du lobbying, nous les techniciens au sein du ministère de l'Environnement, de faire des lobbying auprès de nos dirigeants pour que Madagascar considère les zones humides parmi les écosystèmes les plus importantes à Madagascar, parce que nous avons tous que sans les zones humides, on n'arriverait jamais à survivre. Donc, c'est ce que nous faisons actuellement et on voit que nos dirigeants essaient de suivre notre voie parce qu'on est déjà en train de faire une stratégie et puis une loi pour la conservation des zones humides à Madagascar. Je ne sais pas si j'ai bien répondu à la question.
Thank you. I'm sure many of the audiences can speak French, but if you could summarize that quickly.
Okay. Thanks, Thomas. So in Madagascar, we are eating rice like 3 times in a day, morning, midday, and during the evening. And we are like 25 million population. So that's what said by the director. She said that we have massive need for rice production. And you know, rice, it grows around wetlands. So rice conversion is the main threat to Madagascar, wetlands in Madagascar, even if those ecosystems are highly biodiverse. And what we are doing at the moment is we work with the government through the multi-sectoral aspect, involving different sectors of development, like the agriculture, fisheries, industries, transport. It's difficult to work together, but we think that's the way we move forward to develop this national strategy, but at the same time to make a law to ensure the protection of those fragile ecosystems in Madagascar.
Thank you, Harrison. That's brilliant. I think, Christine, do you want to do one more question? Yeah. And then we'll close the question. Sorry. Everyone will be available after if people have more questions for sure.
Thank you. Thanks for all the presentations and in particular the inspirational examples of work on the ground from Madagascar as well. My question is really around the state of the World Wetlands Report and how that links up to the other measurement and assessment processes that are ongoing. As yours is a participative survey, does that serve to help ground truth some of the other processes like the Global Wetland Outlook? Thanks. And for the future.
Told that it works.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I mean, the really lovely thing is this data went into the Global Wetland Outlook, and also this data helped inform the freshwater challenge calculations, because yeah, there really isn't a global data set on degradation of wetlands and the health of wetlands, the condition of wetlands. So it's a really valuable source, and what we've been doing collectively is also looking at the national reports from contracting parties. And as I said, it matches and is a very similar position to what they're saying. And also, if you look at the scientific information generally from different regions, it's providing a similar picture. And I think as assessments go forward, it's bringing that all together to give kind of a unified voice. And I think it gives real credibility to the statements that are coming out of the COP and are included in the Global Wetland Outlook, that, you know, we've got a serious situation here and we need to do something about it. And it's really nice to have that on the ground data to help kind of support those messages. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Cherise, we saying there's one more? Okay, we got time for one. The UK? The UK, it sounds very formal, doesn't it? future career as a chair of plenary, perhaps.
Okay, thank you. I noticed so much of the state of wetlands graphs where Ramsar sites or wetland sites were better off when they were linked to things like community-based conservation or other activities with communities. A piece of work that the UK government has recently done is a bit of a research analysis of the relationship between the value of wetlands for poverty alleviation. And it seems to reflect quite well with the findings of the status of wetland sites. I was just intrigued to see if you think that that's a strong relationship and something we should think about more.
Kim, Diana, would you like to respond to that one?
Thank you for lifting that up. That absolutely is something that it is being shown in some of the US-based data as well. So absolutely, that is something that talking together about how to meaningfully support the communities that are doing the work out there on the ground is something that should be part of the national agenda.